What's going on, everybody? Happy Halloween. And today we're going over some new information in regards to Halloween the game with the story mode. Just as we anticipated and suspected that we will be getting some information on the story mode for Halloween the game during Halloween. So let's take a look at what they posted on their official Twitter and their website in regards to the details of the story mode. And we have some footage as well with some of the key artwork for that story mode. And I will be going over the information that is on the website with what they posted. So I'll just be reading off on that. Right, so let's take a look here. The night he came home, imagine. Some more details on what players can expect from the single player story mode in Halloween. Illfonic has established a storied legacy of developing asymmetrical multiplayer horror titles that pit groups of would-be victims against imposing antagonists from beloved IP. While these multiplayer-driven fundamentals remain critical to the design philosophies of the studio, Halloween marks a confident venture into the realm of more traditional single-player story content. The team was thrilled to unveil their upcoming horror experience and share a first look at gameplay with players in recent months. But it wouldn't be a proper Halloween celebration without a little treat. Here's more details on what players can expect from the single-player story mode in Halloween. So, starting off with the iconic 1978 film hauntingly tells the story of a small child who viciously murders his older sister on Halloween night in 1963. After spending 15 years at Smith Grove's sanitarium for his incomprehensible actions, Michael Myers plots his escape and begins his blood-soaked journey back to Haddonfield, Illinois. This is where our single-player story mode begins. Players take the role of Michael Myers and experience the critical moments of the night he came home from an entirely different perspective. How did Michael manage to escape from Smith Grove Sanitarium? What actually happened at Phelps' garage? And how did the truck end up in an abandoned on the side of the road? These are just a few of the burning questions that players will get to first-hand answers to as the team aims to provide supplemental story content that complements the original John Carpenter classic. In addition to reliving the unforgettable film moments with familiar faces, the single-player story mode in Halloween will also feature new locations and scenes introducing our brand new cast of Haddonfield civilians who serve as playable characters in the game's multiplayer component. So that's really interesting. I'm curious to know what that means by that. If it's saying that it's a brand new cast of Haddonfield civilians, are we getting Laurie Strode in those characters, or are we just getting brand new civilians? I know that Dr. Loomis is still playing a big part in this. He's going to be in the single player and multiplayer as a playable character. So what's that say about the Laurie Strode and everybody else that was involved? I'm curious on that. We'll get I guess we have to wait and see. All right, so going forward, these reimagined Halloween story sequences are told through a series of defined single-player chapters with captivating in-engine cinematics and gripping narration provided by Dr. Samuel Loomis. Illfonic remains committed to delivering a compelling and authentic Halloween single-player offering that matches the meticulous cadence of the original film while empowering players to help shape the narrative. To further exemplify the team's sandbox-driven gameplay goals and encourage replayability, the single-player story mode in Halloween will feature several difficulties, optional objectives, secret collectibles, and even multiple endings that are determined by the actions players take throughout their homecoming to Haddonfield. That is huge. That is absolutely huge. We'll be going over that in just a second. Beyond supplying fresh twists to pivotal Halloween events, the single-player story component of the game is designed to help prepare players to become the ultimate Michael Myers before they jump into online multiplayer matches. The team is excited to share and show more at a later date. But for now, have a safe and scary Halloween and keep an eye out for the boogeyman. Right, okay, so that is the article there that they posted today for Halloween. A little bit, some details for this story mode. Now, as you see in the video here with like the showing off some of the key artwork and stuff like that of the locations that we'll be visiting in the story mode, unfortunately there is no actual gameplay footage or anything. So it seems like they're still in the early stages of the story mode. So it seems like they were first focusing on the multiplayer side of the game, and now because it's a different team from my understanding, from what they posted in the website. It's a different team that's handling the single player story mode, if I'm not mistaken, which is a good thing because you don't want a rushed project if you're focusing on both multiplayer and single player, especially if they're going to be unique and different in its own way. If we're getting some iconic cinematic moments and really get into details in the specific locations from the original film, I would like a different team to handle that respectfully. And I think that's a good thing. But also what they said in the bottom here of the article, that it's designed to help prepare players to become the ultimate Michael Myers before they jump into an online multiplayer matches. So what you do in the single player, the gameplay mechanics will be relevant to the multiplayer mode. So that being said, how different will it feel from playing the story mode and the multiplayer mode? Because it sounds like it's literally going to be the same mechanics, but it's just in a story mode perspective, narrated and restricted in your movement in a single player vision than the multiplayer would be. Now, I wouldn't say restricted in the sense of like it's so linear you can't do much. It sounds like it's an open sandbox, obviously, right? So think Hitman, the games. So it's an open sandbox for the story mode, which is really cool and exciting to see that. Very similar to Friday the 13th, the story mode challenges, but even more, because it's literally 2 games in one. You got a story mode, you got Halloween single player story mode, and you got Halloween the multiplayer mode. So that's extremely cool. That's really exciting to see that. And for the story mode, the biggest thing that's really cool that this data is that to further exemplify the team's sandbox driven gameplay goals and encourage replayability, the single player story mode in Halloween will feature several difficulties, optional objectives, secret collectibles, and even multiple endings that are determined by the actions players take throughout their homecoming to Haddonfield. That is so cool. That is extremely cool to see that. Like I'm absolutely satisfied and happy to just hear that part, to read that part of the article, and not get any footage of the single player, because they're cooking right now, right? They don't want to rush on anything, so they don't have much to show probably right now of any polished story for Halloween yet. But to give us some artwork of the locations that we're going to be visiting, and to describe about those locations that we'll be visiting, those areas, and kind of expanding the moments of the original Halloween film, where we get to recreate those moments and extend those moments where we couldn't see them on screen. Like how, what happened with Mike Myers getting his outfit, how he got to Phelps' garage, and, when he escaped. Now, here's another thing. It's like when he escaped the hospital, he escaped with the car. Will we have a moment where we get to drive the car? Like an Evil Dead game style, where we get to drive the car to the next location? Are we going to have that ability to do so? That would be pretty cool. I would like to have that, honestly. But because it is an open sandbox, how open is the sandbox for single player? Are these areas going to be bigger than the multiplayer? Because think about how big is it going to be in general, actually, even for the multiplayer? How big are we talking for these sandbox areas? I would assume for multiplayer, we're definitely not going to be driving a vehicle. That's definitely because that really didn't happen in those moments in Halloween, where when it comes to at the end, when it comes to executing these moments of Myers taking action of stalking and going for the kills and stuff, the car was not involved. But in the beginning, it was when he had to travel around and stalk and observe and stuff like that. That's different. That was a different side of Michael versus at the end when he decided to flip the switch and go for the kills. So that could be safe for the multiplayer. And then I think for single player, it would be really cool to see that driving mechanic in there. And if so, like I said, are we going to expand the sandbox to that? I'm really curious to know how big these sandboxes are. Let me know what you think on that. Would you like to see large sandbox maps for single player where we get to drive the vehicle, or even for multiplayer? Would you like to see really big sandboxes, or like Friday 13th big size, or do you want to see them smaller grade, like the Camp Crystal Lake small size that they did later on in the game? Let me know what you think on that. This is absolutely incredible. This is absolutely incredible. I love that, especially because it's not just a slop of a story mode, of a single player story mode. They're not just throwing some slop to us. They're actually putting in some serious work into this and giving us a real treat. This is a trick or treat, and we got ourselves a real treat out of this. You know, we get several difficulty modes that we could do, optional objectives, and not just the main objectives. We could do optional objectives. This is very Hitman like, and I of the game. I love that. Oh my god, this is great. Secret collectibles, so you know, we get to go back and actually do some collectibles like that. That's incredible. And even multiple endings determining how you play in the game. So that's really exciting. I am so excited for that. I think that's extremely cool. That, you know, we literally are getting 2 games in one. We really are. We're getting 2 games in one. This is a really exciting time to be a Halloween fan, to be a horror fan. We're getting ourselves a real treat here, and I'm so thankful for Malika Cod, John Carpenter, Illfonic, and Gunn to really be involved and give us a real treat. Because even let's say, you know, and I hate putting this in here, but I'm just gonna say it because even if things go south with the game, which it won't at all, not even by a long shot, and let's say, like, you know, the game is no longer playable or whatever, like meaning that they stop making content and stuff, and we have another TCM moment or whatever have you, we have so much to come back to with the story mode. And I think that alone, and the offline multiplayer mode, they really thought ahead about the alternatives of what could happen with this game, and they're giving us a full package. You know, we're getting story mode, we're getting multiplayer mode, we're getting offline bots. That's huge. That's absolutely huge. That's incredible. They're really planning ahead on all this. Now here's the thing, this game's gonna stay. You know what I mean? Like, this game's gonna extend from the original Halloween contract for sure, because we have Malika Cod involved and John Carpenter involved. Like, there's nobody else to go to. Like, they're already involved. Like, there's nobody else. Like, this is it. So they have everything they need, and they're going to extend from that. Obviously, the sales are gonna go. They're gonna be rapid. The sales are gonna go off the charts, and they're gonna make so much more out of this. And I'm really hoping when they do extend, not if, but when they do extend past the contract of the original Halloween, the license to the original Halloween movie, I would love to see Halloween 2. You know, growing up, I really disliked that film. John Carpenter even disliked that film. But it is a great film. Looking back at it now and what we've been given with the other Halloween movies, Halloween 2, you know, it is absolutely incredible. The 1981 Halloween 2. I would love to reenact those moments in Halloween 2 for a story mode. You know, hopefully it's not just a single player story mode of just Halloween and that's it. You know, if we're gonna extend ourselves with more content, like, obviously we're gonna get different Michael Myers, right? Of different variants of Michael Myers, right? We're gonna get that. We're probably gonna get Halloween 2. We're probably gonna get maybe Rob Zombie if Rob Zombie gets involved with this. You know, if he gives it okay for that, I'm sure he will. You know, even Blumhouse with the new trilogy, I think. You know, Halloween Kills, Halloween 2018 with the looks and everything. This is gonna be really exciting, and I would love to see that. And if they're gonna go down that route, I would love to see that be implemented into a single player side of it too, where, you know, okay, if we're gonna get that extension, I would love for them to work on extending the single player where we get to choose, you know, like selecting them like VHS tapes, like it was in Evil Dead, where it's like, okay, we got Halloween the movie, let's click on that to play that game, and then for the story mode, and then we got Halloween 2, let's click on that, you know, like that would be really cool. I would love to see that, because we have a different team that's working on the story mode for, you know, so it's not just Illfonic working on that, like Illfonic's focusing on the multiplayer side of stuff. We got a different team that's working on the story, the single player story mode. So I feel like there's definitely room to continue forward with more replayability and more content for both sides of single player and multiplayer, and I'm really hoping that, because, you know, it's really exciting, especially it's a nice breath of fresh air to, you know, sometimes get away from the PvP that's, you know, that's seems to be the phase in today's times, you know, and it's actually nice to, you know, step back a little bit and be in control yourself in a single player, you know, perspective, and, you know, and do what you want to do, have the choices that you want to make, you know, and I'm excited for that. That's what I love, that this game's got both of those fields for, you know, satisfying both players of those realms of, you know, being in control for yourself in a single player pace, and then the multiplayer side of PvP. You know, I love that. Let me know what y'all think. Are you really excited for all that information with the single player story mode? Would you like to see more with that? Would you like to see them extend past that? What kind of Halloween content would you like to see? Would you like to see Halloween 2, Halloween 4, you know, 5, 6? Would you like to see the Rob Zombies variants in there? Would you like to see the new trilogy? Would you even like to go further and say you want to see Halloween Ends in that, and have and see Corey as Myers? Ooh, let me know what you think on that. I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions. Definitely slash a like, leave a comment, let me know down below. And if you're new to the channel, don't forget to click that subscribe button. And we cover all things horror with video games, movies, and shows. And to all my horror fans out there, happy Halloween. I hope you have a wonderful and safe Halloween. And until next time, keep your doors locked and leave the lights on. This is the Slasher Report, and I bid you farewell.